Welcome back, Devils fans. It is your host, Ace, here on Running with the Devils, where we are talking New Jersey Devils hockey all year long. Please hit that subscribe button, smash the like, share with a friend. Thank you very much. And the day is finally here, kids. Our beloved New Jersey Devils in Raleigh, taking on the Carolina Hurricanes in the first game of the 25-26 NHL season. And what a long summer it was. The regular season is finally here, and it all starts where it all ended last season, in that absolutely heart-stomping, devastating Game 5 loss after taking a 3-0 lead in Game 5, looking to bring the series back to Newark for a Game 6. And I was already visualizing myself drinking those ice-cold beers on Championship Plaza with all of you. I was already there mentally, envisioning myself in the beautiful spring weather, just drinking those ice-cold 24-ounce Bud Lights, waiting for Game 6, and the Devils collapsed, unfortunately. What a devastating end to the season, and that's where it all begins this year. But I am here today with the season preview and prediction show for the 25-26 New Jersey Devils, and we got to start by taking a peek back at last season. The 24-25 New Jersey Devils finished 42-33-7 for 91 points, finished third in the Metropolitan Division, and then obviously lost in 5 to the Canes in the first round. Of note, goals for, the Devils had 240 goals, 20th of 32 teams in the league. It's terrible. Below the halfway mark. With the roster we had, obviously the injuries and stuff, but that should have never been the case. Goals against, very promising, 220, 5th of 32. So obviously we were competent in keeping the puck out of our net, but we were not great at putting it in the opposition's net. I expect the goals for to be much better this season. And the preseason odds for the Devils to win the Cup last year, Vegas was very high on the Devils. They were 11-1 to win the Cup, and the total points, the over-under was set at 102.5, meaning the Devils needed 103 points or more to win that bet. If you took the over, 102 or less, you'd be a loser on the over bet. And, disappointing season overall, but we turned the page. We turned the page from that season. But to take a look at how Vegas is treating the Devils for the upcoming year, the Devils are currently 19-1 to win the Cup. This went up quite a bit. I looked at this yesterday, and the Devils were only 14-1, and now they're 19-1. So there's obviously some action in these future bets, but I think I'm going to have to put a little bit on this. I like 19-1 odds way better than 14-1. For those that aren't familiar with betting, plus 1,900. If you were to bet $100 on the Devils to win the Cup, you would win $1,900. Pretty decent odds for the Cup. And we look at the point totals. I just mentioned last year was 102.5. This year, the Devils' point total is 100.5. Yesterday, this was actually 99.5. So this went up. So obviously, there was some money coming in on the Devils to get 100 points, and it went up a full point. So now it's 100.5, needing 101 to win on the over at plus 118, and then under 100.5 is minus 144. Interesting movements in the line in 24 hours or so. But 100.5 is the Devils' total for the season. We look at the standings from last year. We look at the Metropolitan standings, and our Devils clung on to that third place finish with 91 points and just kind of faded into the playoffs. Great October, November, December for the boys. Everyone knows the holiday break came. The calendar year of 2025 was atrocious to the Devils. They were one of the worst teams in the league during that stretch, and backed into the playoffs, and it is what it is. 91 points. Hurricanes finishing second in the Metro with 99, and obviously the Washington Capitals, just 111 points. Completely insane. They were fueled, I think, by the whole Ovechkin goal chase and seemed to overachieve all season. Everyone was expecting them to fall off at some point. They never did. 111-point regular season. What a run for the Caps. And we look at the Atlantic. The Leafs won the Atlantic with 108. Lightning came in second, 102. And the now back-to-back Cup champ Panthers, 98 points. But the Metro was so bad. You look at this here. The Metro was so bad that both wild card teams came from the Atlantic. The Sens with 97 points and the Canadiens with 91 points, just like the Devils. Wow. No one wanted to take that spot from us, really. We just were clinging on for dear life with those 91 points. And something that I think kind of gets forgotten about, and everyone knew at the time that these were important, we were kind of neck and neck with the Jackets for a little bit. And if you look here in March 11th, at the Rock, we beat the Jackets 5-3, and then less than a week later on the road, beat them 2-1. If you remember, that was a Jake Allen start. Devils taking the lead into the third period, and the Jackets at home were just dominating us in the third period. Jake Allen stood on his head to preserve the win. What a phenomenal display of goaltending by Jake Allen. Probably one of his best games, if not the best game for him last year. And those were two massive games in that playoff race. Two massive games in that playoff race. If the Jackets had only won one of those two games, instead of the Devils beating them both times, if the Jackets only won one of them, if we just split those two games, we would have finished with 89 points, and the Jackets would have finished with 91, and they would have been in the playoffs as the third-place Metro finisher. Completely wild. So the Devils essentially, I mean, you could point to a lot of things like this, but essentially made the playoffs by beating the Jackets in both of those games in March. Crucial games down the stretch, but I thought that was an interesting little tidbit there. And then we look at the point production from last season. Jesper Bratt leading the way, the Bratter. 81 games played, 21 goals, 67 assists, 88 points. What can you say about Jesper Bratt? Our most consistent offensive weapon for the past few seasons. Jack with 70 points in 62 games. Obviously, we're hoping to see him on the ice more often this season. The captain, Nico, with 75 games played, 35 goals, 34 assists for 69 points. Love to see the captain putting in that work. Timo Meyer, 80 games played, 26 goals, 27 assists for 53 points. And then in fifth place, Luke Hughes. Despite missing action, 71 games played, 7 goals, 37 assists for 44 points. It's going to be interesting to see what Luke does this year. He's taking over Power Play 1, for now at least. And coming off that fresh contract signing, is Luke going to prove to the world he is worth the money? And I think he will. Stefan Nason in sixth place here with 22 goals, 19 assists for 41 points in 78 games played. Dougie Hamilton, 64 games played, 9 goals, 31 assists, 40 points. The dog, Dawson Mercer, the Iron Man, 82 games played every season so far in his career. What a durable guy. 19 goals, 17 assists, 36 points. We'll talk about Mercer a little bit later. Andre Palat, 15 goals, 13 assists for 28 points in 77 games played. And then rounding out the top 10, Paul Cotter, 16 goals, 6 assists for 22 points in 79 games played. Love me some Paul Cotter. I think him and Gritsuk are going to tear it up this year. We'll get to that a little bit later as well. And then we look at special teams. The Devils' power play, just on fire. With all the weapons we have, that power play was nasty last year. I expect it to be nasty this year. Third in the league, 28.2%, trailing only the Golden Knights, who had 28.3%. I mean, wow. 0.1% separated us in the second place. And then the Jets, a little bit higher up there on the list, 28.9 with the number one spot. But third in the league power play, I expect the power play to be just powerful. Very powerful this season with the units that we have. We'll talk about that later in the show as well. And then the PK. Devils PK, very solid. Second in the league, 82.7%. Trailing only the Canes, 83.6%. Special teams is going to be another strong point for this Devils club. It was last year. And to some extent, the power play probably masked a little bit of the 5-on-5 issues that we had. Devils could not score a ton 5-on-5. The power play kind of carried them to a bunch of victories throughout the year, and hopefully this season they are not as reliant on that power play. Got to score at even strength, got to get 5-on-5 goals, and hopefully just have a more balanced attack throughout the lineup and continue to rack up wins. But that month of October is brutal, we all know. Okay, so we're done with last season. We now look ahead to the new season, and everyone was waiting for our new Russian import, Arseny Gritsuk, the talk of the offseason. We'll get to him a bunch later in the show as well, but coming over from the KHL, drafted by the Devils in 2019, everyone waiting for his debut. News came out that he was going to join the team this year. Lots of people excited about that. Again, more on Gritsuk momentarily, but we look at some of the faces that departed the team. Guys that were with the team last year that left in free agency in this past offseason summer. Curtis Lazar, Laser, signs with the Edmonton Oilers. Wish the best for him. Always liked Laser, but that bottom six needed a gut renovation, and Lazar is one of the guys that we moved on from. He goes to Edmonton. And Nathan Bastian, another guy that just struggled a bit, wasn't getting it done in the bottom six. Devils decide to move on from him. He signs with Dallas. Obviously, everyone's kind of probably favorite Bastion moment would be the Tommy Cutlets goal celebration at MetLife Stadium. I mean, what a moment. What a moment. We'll never forget Nate Bastion for that, but he's now in Dallas. Brian Dumoulin, a late season addition last year, played phenomenal for the Devils on the blue line in the playoffs. And if we weren't so deep on D, I think we would have signed Dumoulin. But we have an abundance of riches on the blue line. Dumoulin played really well in the playoffs and earned a nice contract with the LA Kings. And so Dumoulin moves on from the Devils. And Tomas Tatar, another bottom six casualty, signs with the Switzerland team and is playing overseas. Good luck to Tuna. We'll always remember him for that 22-23 season as well. Devils move on from him. And then another one that people may not have been or as familiar with, Isaac Poulter, a promising young goaltending prospect that I thought was going to be in the mix to eventually crack the NHL lineup at some point in the future. But the Devils decided to move on from him with all the goalies in the organization. Big Mike Yegorov, Nico Dawes, Jakub Malik, etc., etc. I think they just thought we have a lot of goalies and we will move on from him. He signs in Winnipeg. Isaac Poulter, another guy to keep an eye on. As his career progresses, we'll see if he becomes an NHL regular. And then Justin Dowling, another one of the bottom six kind of just, I thought he played admirably for the Devils. He was never really a liability, but he wasn't bringing much in terms of offense, and that bottom six really needed it. Justin Dowling signs with the New York Rangers. Ooh. But Dowling now a Ranger. And those are the guys we just decided not to offer contracts to. And then we get to Fitzy's first major piece of off-season business. Lots of people seeing what was going to happen with the cap space. It was going to be tight. What's Fitz going to do? Are we going to be a major player in free agency? And I honestly, from probably mid-season last year, I think my prediction was that the off-season was going to be fairly lackluster because of the cap situation. And I did expect the bottom six to get tweaked a little bit and a Luke Hughes extension. But a lot of people had grand aspirations and were thinking we're going to go get these flashy top six guys and all of these things, and I never thought it was in the cards. But the first piece of business, June 18th, Eric Holla is traded to the Predators for Jeremy Hanzel and a 2025 fourth-round pick, freeing up $3.15 million right there. Nice little cap savings, and a lot of people were like, oh, this is the first of things to come. People were running wild thinking that, maybe Palat was going to get traded, maybe Dougie. Fitz is loading up to make some massive move. And Hall was the first piece, but none of those other moves ever came, at least to the extent that many of you were wishing for. But then we get to free agency. And free agency was fairly underwhelming, but I think meaningful. We start off with Jake Allen. Never in a million years did I see this coming. I thought it was going to be Nico Dawes with Markey. The reports were that there were going to be a lot of teams in on Jake Allen in free agency, and because there weren't many other notable goaltenders available in free agency, that teams were reportedly going to offer him $4 to $5 million a year for a couple years. And what does he do? He hammers out a deal with Fitz, super team-friendly, $1.8 million cap hit times 5 years. Now, I don't think he's going to play all 5 years, but who knows? Maybe he plays 3. Time will tell, but $1.8 million cap hit, super team-friendly, leaving tons of meat on the bone. Jake Allen, absolute legend for that deal. Can't say it enough. You don't see guys often put their money where their mouth is. We obviously saw Connor McDavid do it on a massive scale the other day and giving the Oilers arguably one of the most team-friendly contracts in probably pro sports history. And hopefully some guys around the league take note. I think you guys know what I'm talking about. But Jake Allen, complete legend for that deal. Then Fitz gets Connor Brown, the first piece of the new and improved bottom six. Connor Brown coming off back-to-back Cup Finals appearances with the Oilers. And unfortunately for him, losing to the Panthers both times. But he signs a 4-year deal for $12 million, average annual value of $3 million. Dennis Chalowski brought back for a year at $775,000. Nice, solid veteran defenseman to have, as you all know. You need to have a deep blue line. You need to have a deep everything, but blue line especially, with all these injuries and things, you can never be too sure. And Chalowski was a nice insurance piece for a pretty cheap price, $775,000. So he's brought back. And then another, what everyone thought was going to be a bottom six piece, Evgeny Dadonov. 1 year, $1 million base, but I do believe there's tons of bonuses and incentives and things, so it won't come into play this year, but there are a bunch of thresholds for him to get paid significantly more if he hits them. But Dadonov brought in 1 year, $1 million. Everyone thought it was going to be for a bottom 6 role. Turns out he is, in fact, starting on the top line with the big boys. Daddy with Bratter and Jack. Let's see if he could hold on to the spot. So far, it seems like he is, a smart enough player to be able to mesh with these guys. I do think if we see any signs of him not being up for the challenge, that we will see someone else audition there. But it's his spot to lose for now. Dadonov, top line with the big boys. Excited to see how that goes. 1 year deal for him. And then Cody Glass. There was kind of a little, I don't know if it's a controversy, but the Devils originally did not qualify him. And then I guess there was reports out that there was a ton of teams interested in him. And then the Devils eventually just gave him the 2 year deal for $2.5 a year, $5 million total. Cody Glass coming back, and we'll see how that goes. With the cap going up, as we've talked about a million times, these contracts are getting crazier and crazier. And so for a guy like Glass at $2.5 million, I don't really feel any sort of way about that. I thought, we'll see what he could do. Ideally, it would have been great for him to be a 4C, I think, on this club. But because of the lack of center depth, he is going to play 3C. And hopefully he's up for the challenge, and hopefully he has a breakout year and can help his line mates. But it will be interesting to see. But that's kind of the free agency rundown. Jake Allen on a stunning deal. Connor Brown brought in for some veteran experience. Chalowski brought in for insurance. Dadonov brought in, going to play on the top line. And Cody Glass, your 3C at the moment. That was Fitz's free agency. And then it was either that later that day or the next day, I forget. But Fitz had a press conference where he made the quote that he probably wishes he never did, where he said that signing Luke Hughes was his #1 priority. And then this is just people ran with it. And obviously the Luke Hughes saga, Fitz said that early July 2nd, I think it was, or, somewhere around there. And months later, 1 month goes by. We're into August. No Luke news. Then we get to September, early September, no Luke news. Then training camp starts, and they're supposedly hammering it out, and it's going back and forth. There's new reports every day from this guy and Elliot Friedman and Pierre LeBrun. Everyone's reporting their own angle on the story. It seemed like the longest soap opera drama of all time. Luke misses training camp, most of the preseason at this point. And then they sent in the big guns. Your boy Ace went to a charity event, and they're like, go talk to Luke, see if you could kind of get the ball rolling on this thing. So here we are, I talked to Luke a little bit. And what do you know? It was either the next day or 2 days later. I think it was 2 days later. Bang! Luke Hughes signed 7 years, $63 million, $9 million average annual value, and you guys are welcome. No, I'm kidding. I obviously had nothing to do with it, but it is funny the way that timing worked out. But I think great deal for both sides. There was lots of speculation in the weeks leading up to this. Most reports were saying that both the Devils and Luke Hughes wanted a long-term deal, but they were kind of stuck on the money portion of it. And in the end, $9 million, I think, was a fair number for both sides. Obviously, Luke's camp initially started negotiations higher than that, and Fitz started lower. And they settled at the $9 million. I think that's a great deal for both sides. A lot of people were saying, oh, it's an overpayment, this, that, and the other thing. But the reality is, this is a new cap era, guys. This is not the old cap. This is the new cap. And you're going to see wild deals. And you saw it with Kaprizov, signed for $17 million a year or whatever it was. With the cap going up and projected to continually go up, guys are going to keep getting more shocking contracts. It's just going to keep happening. And so Luke for $9 million, I do think at the latest 1 year from now, maybe next season, people say this deal is a steal. It's a great value deal. And maybe Luke will end up on the next time The Athletic or whoever does those reports about greatest value contracts in the league. Maybe Luke will be on there. And it'll probably really infuriate their agent after Jack was on there last time. But you got to stay healthy, in my opinion, for them to be true value contracts. And I do think the Jack contract is a great value. But in the end, if you miss the playoffs and you're not available, I mean, how great is the contract? But the Jack contract at $8 million is obviously one of the best in the league. And I do think we will be talking about the Luke Hughes contract similarly at some point in the very near future. And so I'm thrilled with the deal. I know most of you are. There's some of you that thought it was an overpayment. But in the end, in this new cap era, I think $9 million for Luke is pretty damn good. And then that started the conversation of, oh man, the Devils are over the cap. How are they going to become cap compliant? And the first move of that was trading my man Curtis McDermott. On October 3rd, the Devils traded McDermott to the Senators in exchange for Zach McEwen, and that frees up $1.15 million. And then in conjunction with a couple LTIR moves, Devils got shifty. They become cap compliant. And then this news comes out, no surprise to anyone. Luke Glendening signed. This man came in on a PTO, had a good training camp, played his ass off in the preseason, and he won the job as 4C. Congratulations to Luke Glendening. I mean, I think he probably, if you had to be honest about it, heading into it, he was probably an underdog to make this team because of the stiff competition that he had, and he earned it. He earned it. He got his one-year deal. He's going to hopefully take a lot of the face-off pressure off of Nico Hischier this year, and we'll see. But another veteran in the lineup. You guys know I love my vets. I like guys with experience, leaders, and I think Glendening is going to add to that. And I'm excited to see what he could do in his role as the fourth-line center. We're going to find out. Hopefully he's up for the challenge, and hopefully this bottom six just really performs. And now that we're done with all the off-season business, we get to the team. We get to the 25-26 New Jersey Devils, and we start on defense. We have the first pairing of Jonas Siegenthaler and Dougie Hamilton, a second pairing of Luke Hughes and Brett Pesce, and a third pairing of Brendan Dillon and Shimo Nemitz. Last year, the defense was pretty damn good. I think they're going to be as good or even better this year. Obviously, Johnny Kovacevic starting the season on LTIR. The timetable for his return is a little cloudy at the moment. I think most people are speculating either January or February. And it will be interesting when he returns, twofold. A, who comes out of the lineup, if anyone? You would think they want to get Kovacevic in there, but who knows? I mean, if the defense is looking great, there's a chance that he doesn't get back in right away. We'll see how that all goes. And then furthermore, what is the permanent fix to be cap compliant when he comes off LTIR? Money's going to have to move out somehow. That'll be a very interesting thing to keep an eye on, but I do love the D. I loved it last year. I still love it. I probably like it even more this year. We have great depth on defense. Edwards and Casey waiting in the wings. I mean, the blue line pieces that we have right now are just absolutely beautiful, and it will be interesting to see at some point if some of these extraneous defensemen are used in a trade to bring in some forward help at some point. Another thing to keep an eye on. But I like it. I like the D a lot. And then we get to the forward group. Oh, the forward group is looking, in my opinion, quite a bit better than last season. And again, with that bottom six, the bar was pretty low. But we have a top line of Dadonov, Jack Hughes, Jesper Bratt. Very excited to see how Daddy plays with Peanut Butter and Jelly. I think we're going to see Peanut Butter and Jelly pretty much together for as long as they're both here. I mean, they're just a dynamic duo. Just amazing offensive talents, elite players. And we're going to see how Dadonov does in that left wing spot playing with them. And then the second line, Timo Meier, Nico Hischier, and Dawson Mercer. Massive, massive, massive opportunity for Dawson Mercer. He's a guy that I feel like is slightly polarizing in the fan base. I've defended him for years. I like Dawson Mercer. There's not many guys that you could put out there in every situation and rely on them. And Dawson Mercer is capable of doing it all. You could put him on the power play, put him on the penalty kill. You could have him out there late in games protecting the lead. Always brings the energy, always brings the intensity. I'm a Dawson Mercer guy, and I hope he just makes the most of this opportunity because this is a very big opportunity for him on the season to start in the top six and get power play time. We'll get to that shortly, but hopefully a big season for Mercer. And can we see Timo start just getting hot before March? We all know from March on, Timo just goes on an absolute tear. We got to see Timo come out of the gate hot. October, November, December, I just want to see Timo just on fire. Would love to see it. And the captain, Nico Hischier. I mean, what can you say about this guy? 200-foot player, does everything, face-off warrior. Just, there's nothing more to say about Nico Hischier, guys. I mean, this guy is the pulse and the heartbeat of the team. Hopefully is a Selke finalist this season. And with Barkov injured, is this the year that Nico finally gets that Selke trophy? That'll be an interesting one to see. And now we get to the bottom six. Oh, the bottom six, the just absolute pain point of the New Jersey Devils last season. It should not be the case this year. We see a third line of Andre Palat, Cody Glass, and Connor Brown. In the preseason, Brown and Palat seem to be working pretty damn well together. Can that continue in the regular season? Can Connor Brown help get the best version of Andre Palat possible? And I talked about this in a video yesterday, but I like Palat. I think because of his contract at the $6 million, he's obviously overpaid, and I think that's the reason why he gets a lot of venom from the fans, or at least a lot of the fans. But he does have value to this club, and I think with the right line mates, we could see a very valuable and impactful Andre Palat on this roster, and hopefully Brown can help him get to that level, along with Cody Glass. Cody Glass is a guy that I'm just kind of on the fence about. I want to see him do well. I ideally wanted him to be the 4C. I think a lot of people were kind of on the same page with me at that. Cody Glass as the 4C I would have liked a lot more than 3C. But it is what it is. The center depth is not there, and so Cody Glass is the 3C for now. Hopefully he could perform with these two guys. And Connor Brown, just a veteran with tons of experience, must have nightmares of the Panthers nightly after going to the Cup Finals and losing to them in back-to-back years. But he's going to bring all that experience and leadership to this group, and I'm liking the mixture. But that third line, Palat, Glass, and Brown, is going to be very interesting. And then we get to the fourth line, and this might be one of the, at least on paper and from the small preseason sample we got, this might be one of the better and more exciting fourth lines in recent memory for the New Jersey Devils. Paul Cotter at left wing, Luke Glendening at center, and Arseny Gritsuk at right wing. And ooh, baby. Oh, baby. If they stay together, this could be one of the best, if not the best, fourth line in the National. I think they have that type of capability. Cotter and Gritsuk together have looked like magic during the preseason. Both have incredible speed. Cotter's got crazy hands. He brings that intensity, a little of that sandpaper. He'll go smash guys. Single season hit leader for the Devils in franchise history. It's only been tracked, I think, for about 20 years or so. I forget when they started tracking hits, but Paulie Cotter's got the record from last season. And Gritsuk, speed, vision, insane shot. All the Devils goalies in camp talked about his release. And I think the sky is the limit for this fourth line. We'll see how long Gritsuk stays there. I know a lot of people are just clamoring for him to get top 6 minutes, but what I've seen with him and Cotter, they're going to really give fourth lines across the league a big problem, because it is going to be hard for a lot of fourth lines to skate with these guys. And I think they're going to expose fourth lines regularly. And if they stay together, I think it's going to be a whole season of just dominating the opposition's fourth lines. I'm expecting big years out of Cotter and Gritsuk. Both actually will be looking for new deals after this year, so that's kind of an interesting, motivating factor, I think, for a lot of guys as well. But going to be a very interesting fourth line for as long as they're together. Paulie Cotter, Gritsuk with Glendening in the middle. And then we get to the power play units. Oh, man. We talked about that earlier in this video. The power play was phenomenal last season. I expect it to be phenomenal again. We look at the first power play unit: Dawson Mercer, Nico Hischier, Jesper Bratt, Luke Hughes, and Jack Hughes. Firepower. Firepower everywhere. And many people were wondering, is Luke going to be power play one quarterback? Is it going to be Dougie? Well, for now, we have our answer. It will be Luke Hughes, and this is lethal. Dawson Mercer, Nico Hischier, Jesper Bratt, Luke Hughes, and Jack Hughes. I mean, wow. Wow. Good luck to the goalies on the other team during this power play. I expect this power play to be absolutely phenomenal. And that's just the first unit. Love that first unit. We get to the second unit. Also deadly. Evgeny Dadonov, Arseny Gritsuk, Andre Palat, Timo Meier, and Dougie Hamilton. That is quite a sexy second power play unit, if I do say so myself. I mean, wow. Wow. This power play, it's going to perform. It's going to perform regularly, and I cannot wait for it. I feel like it could be slightly conspiracy theory stuff, but at some point last year when the Devils' power play was red hot, it seemed like the referees were very hesitant to call penalties on the other team because they didn't want to put the Devils on the power play because it was nearly automatic for a stretch. Every time we went on the power play, we were just scoring. I mean, it was completely crazy. When I look at the moves made and this roster overall, It's hard for me to not be very excited. I'm not going to lie. I try to kind of keep my expectations and hopes down and not get too carried away, especially entering the new season. But how are you not going to be excited for a clean slate? A new season of New Jersey Devils hockey is upon us, and I like the team. I really do. Obviously, I wish we got the top 6 winger that everyone wanted to play with Jack and Bratter, but it was going to be hard to do with the salary cap situation. Maybe one is added at the deadline, but for now, I think a lot of fans of other teams and GMs of other teams are pretty damn jealous of our team overall. This is a very solid team. I do like the veterans added. I always thought for the past few seasons that the group was still a little too young and inexperienced to really make a deep playoff push. But when you add veterans like Connor Brown, Dadonov, Glendening, guys that have been on cup contending teams or cup contender-ish type teams and winning playoff rounds, to add them to your group on and off the ice is invaluable. I think they are going to help tremendously. And I think it kind of morphed the team from a team that's kind of in transition to a team that is truly ready to compete now. Now, obviously, we need to stay healthy. Everything about this season is going to hinge entirely on health. If we stay relatively healthy, I think this team is prime to do some damage. Prime to do some damage and some predictions. I'm not going to make a ton of them, and I'm not going to make any crazy, wild predictions. First prediction, I think Jack Hughes plays 75 games or more and registers 100-plus points. Would love to see it. I think this is going to be Jack's biggest season thus far. I think he has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. I think he's kind of seen some of the nonsense, floating around the interwebs, whether it's on social media or whatever. And I think he is going to silence a lot of people this season. I think he's played 75-plus games for Jack and over 100 points. Prediction number 1. The next prediction, I don't think this is much of a prediction, but more of a whatever. The bottom 6 will consistently produce. Last season, there was no production. The bottom 6 was a black hole. And on nights where the top 6 couldn't get anything going, night, game over, Devils struggle and get shut out. I think we got shut out 8 or 9 times last year. Completely disgusting. And a lot of that I have to put on the bottom 6. When the top dogs weren't getting it done, the bottom 6 did absolutely nothing, and it was a travesty. Absolute travesty. The bottom 6 this year will constantly produce for this team throughout the year, and it is going to be a beautiful improvement. Next prediction, my man Dawson Mercer gets back to that 22-23 production. In 22-23, he had 27 goals, 29 assists for 56 points. I think he finishes with very similar numbers this season. Top 6 minutes, power play 1 opportunity at the moment, and I think he gets back to around that level. I'd love to see him get 60-plus points, but he's going to get back to around where he was in 22-23. And I think that's kind of the root of a lot of people's, frustration or disappointment with him, is that so early on in his career, he had that 56-point season during that magical 22-23 season for the Devils, and I think people were just expecting it to always be at that level or more. Keep in mind, Dawson Mercer's only 23 years old. He turns 24 in a few weeks, but a very young player in this league. Still has plenty of developing to do, plenty of lessons to learn, and I think it was just slightly unrealistic expectations for him from a lot of the fans based on that 22-23 season. But I think he gets back there or better this year. Would love to see 60-plus out of him, but I think he's definitely going to be good for, 55-ish points or so at a minimum, and the more the merrier. But Mercer has a big bounce-back year and hopefully silences a lot of the critics. And then we get to the wild card kind of exciting story of the season, Arseny Gritsuk. Coming over from the KHL, nearly a point-per-game guy last season. Tons of people with crazy high hopes and dreams for this kid. There's been predictions of wild point totals and goal totals. People talking about he's definitely going to be in the top 6 and all the, all the wild stuff you'd expect. But I'm trying to, again, have reasonable expectations for a young guy coming over from Russia in his first season in North America. Assuming he stays in the bottom 6 for the majority of the year, I think Gritsuk has a solid year, and I'm going to go 23 goals and 22 assists for him for 45 points. I think that'd be a solid rookie campaign for him. Now, should he claw his way into the top 6 for any duration of time and get more power play time than anticipated, maybe he does sniff 60. I think it's very possible. I think the skill is there. It's just going to be a matter of Is he on that bottom six or does he get into the top six at some point? But I do think 23 goals, 22 assists for 45 points for him. Solid rookie season. And then his kind of running mate for the moment, Paulie Cotter. Love Paul Cotter. I've talked about him just at length several times. Love his game. He's definitely a bit of a throwback player to me. I always like those kind of guys. And I think Paul Cotter has a career year, and I'm going 20 goals for Paulie with 18 assists for 38 points from Paul Cotter and some solid hitting and ferociousness brought into that bottom six. Going to be a great year for Paulie as well. Again, I mentioned before, looking for a new deal after this season, so that's always a little bit of an extra motivator. And then we get to Shimo Nemitz, a guy that also has kind of split the fan base at various points last season. I think Nemitz primarily was just in his head last year. He was in Utica for a while. Then he came up. He was in the box watching the games, not playing. Then he finally gets his chance, has a pretty big playoff for the Devils, scores that massive double overtime game-winning goal. And I think that did just absolute wonders for his confidence in his overall game. And I think this year he finally claims a spot as a full-time NHLer. And I think he continues to develop into the stud that we all want to see him become. And I think Nemitz fairly quickly into the season will kind of assert himself as that guy. And everyone's going to be like, okay, there's no more worries about Nemitz. He is what we thought, and a bright future for him as well. And he's going to get a massive payday after this season. And I hope it doesn't lead to him being a casualty, because I would love to see Nemitz here for the long haul. But that's another interesting thing to kind of keep an eye on. And then we go to my man in net, Markey. Oh, man, do I love Markey. You guys all know I love Markey. Had a great start to the season last year. Was in the early Vezina candidate conversation. I mean, it was always Hellebuck's trophy to win, but I think Markey was definitely on the verge of being a nominee had he continued his play. But unfortunately, he suffered that injury, missed a bunch of time, and he had was kind of a little bit of an up and down after he came back. But overall, I think Markey is going to be a man on a mission this year. I think he's going to be dialed in, and I think Markey wins 30 games or more for your New Jersey Devils. I really do. I'm going to be very curious to see how they manage the starts between him and Jake Allen. I've talked about, the sports analytics and the sports science where they don't let these starters play anywhere near as many games as they used to let starters play. But I would like to see Markey start 54, 55 games or so. It might be closer to 50, but I think like 54-ish would be a good number for him, and I think he gets the 30 wins. I really do. Markey, a solid season. And, wow. This has been going on for a while. I'm kind of fatigued here. But in summary, if most of the things I just talked about happen in conjunction with some other things, I'm not going to sit here and make a prediction for every single guy, but there's a lot of kind of question marks for some of the other guys in the lineup and everything. But if most of the things I just mentioned happen, I think it's going to be a great season. And I'm going that the Devils will finish 48, 29, and 5, which will be good for 101 points and a second place finish in the Metro. I really was deliberating if I have them winning the division, but I just think it's not their time yet to win the division. And in the end, who cares about winning the division, right? The Panthers didn't win the division last year. They won what mattered. They won the cup. So I got the Devils going 48, 29, and 5, 101 point season, very solid, second in the Metro. And in terms of the playoffs, I think this is the year they take that next step, guys. I really do. I think they go to the Eastern Conference Finals or further. Eastern Conference Finals or bust. Or bust. They must win 2 rounds this year. They won a first round in 22-23 and have not replicated that success since. I have said a million times, making the playoffs is nothing to celebrate. It should be the kind of norm. It shouldn't be something to talk about. Back in my day, during the glory days of the Devils, making the playoffs every single year was our birthright. You knew it was going to happen. The only question was, can this team win the cup? We know we're going to the playoffs. Can we win the cup? And I'm hoping this year can really cement the Devils as a perennial contender. It's long overdue. I really was duped into believing the 22-23 season was the start of that, and unfortunately that was not the case. that may have been a season of somewhat fool's gold. And a lot of people have had all different theories about that. But in the end, here we are. More veteran team. A little more experience for some of the core guys. We have win-now goalies in net in Markey and Jake Allen. And I think they take that next step. And I think we do get to the Eastern Conference Finals or further. And call me crazy. And I've talked about this before as well. I do think this team is capable of winning the Cup. Now, I'm not picking them to win the Cup. And I'm not saying they're a Cup favorite. But back to last year's kind of motto for me was, why not us? Why not us? If they stay healthy, if a bunch of things go their way, I do think they're capable of beating any team on any given night. And I think they could go on a magical run. I really do. They are capable of winning the Cup, in my opinion. Now, obviously, I would like the team a lot better, again, with a top 6 winger and a 3C. But as it stands right now, this roster is fairly solid, in my opinion. And I will like it more if we make some deadline day moves, obviously, and bolster the roster a little bit. And who knows, that might be in Fitz's bag of tricks. If this team is playing well, approaching the deadline, maybe he says, you know what, it's time for me to put some chips in the middle and really make a push to win now. And I hope he does. If the team is looking like what we expect them to look like, I hope we see some meaningful deadline moves. That's been one of my biggest personal criticisms of Fitz, along with many of you, is the inactive regular seasons. He does a lot in the offseason, and I gave him his props after the 23-24 season where it all just fell apart. He realized that the goaltending and defense were atrocious, and he blew it up and rebuilt the whole damn thing. Trades for Markey, signs Pesce, signs Brendan Dillon. He robs Kovacevic in a trade from Montreal, and he revamped the whole thing in one offseason, and it paid off. You saw the results last year. The defense and goaltending was not the main issue. The main issue was scoring goals, largely in part to a bottom 6 that was just abysmal. Completely abysmal. But there it is, folks. My season preview predictions. I think it's going to be a great year for the Devils. I'm super pumped. I would love to see them make the conference finals or obviously go further. If they win the Stanley Cup anytime in the near future, I don't even know what I would do. I'd be elated and beside myself. I may not sleep for the first week after they win the Cup. I don't even know. It'd be wild times, but let's just get off to a good regular season. But I'm super jacked. Opening up in Raleigh. Would love to give them a little shot in the mouth during their home opener in Game 1 and give them a nice loss on their home ice. But let me know what you guys think about anything I said in this video. Give me some of your hot takes or your bold predictions. Whatever you have, throw it out there in the comments. Follow your boy on X and Instagram. Check the link in the description. I'll have the links for both of those in the description. Follow me on X. Follow me on Instagram. I'm trying to get more involved on both of those platforms and doing some different things in different places. So if you kind of want to see everything that's going on, follow me on both of those. I have a massive giveaway show coming up. I'm hoping to do it in the next few weeks. I'm going to be giving away a ton of Devils memorabilia, apparel, merchandise, all kinds of stuff spanning the last 20, 30 years from all different eras. And it should be fun. So keep your eyes peeled for that. But follow me on X and Instagram. There's going to be certain items that are exclusive giveaways to those platforms. I haven't narrowed all the details down yet. But it's going to be a live show. There's going to be a bunch of different ways to win. Some of it will involve like reposting something. Some of it will be trivia. Some will be like a guess the number thing. Some of it will be team history questions. Some will be questions more pertaining to the channel to try to reward those that have been watching for a while. But it's going to be a little bit of everything, and there's going to be hats, maybe some shirts, signed items, pucks, all kinds of stuff. So keep your eyes peeled for that. But I'm fired up, guys. Hockey is finally back. It's been way too long. One of the longer summers I could remember, or at least it felt like that. But I look forward to talking to all of you throughout the season. If you're not familiar with the post-game live, after MSG goes off the air with the post-game show, I come on and do a post-game live where I talk about the game with all of you. I pull up a bunch of comments. I react to the comments. And it's usually a pretty good time. So if you're not familiar with that, check out the live tab of the channel. That will be back for the season. I have some other things in the works as well. There's always things in the works. I got tons of ideas, limited time and resources, but I'm trying to bring everything to fruition that I can. I have some grand plans though, guys. We're just getting started with this thing. Buckle up, baby. Running with the Devils is coming out with a ton of exciting stuff throughout the season. But that's all I got for you now. This was a long one. If you made it this far, I really appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate all the support. This has been really fun. Great community that we've all built here together as New Jersey Devils fans. And I'm just hoping for a big season, and I am super pumped for the year. And I think a lot of these guys are pumped as well, and they're looking for a redemption season. That's all I got for you now. But throw it all out there in the comments. Your predictions, your whatever you got. Throw it out there. Anything, everything New Jersey Devils hockey. Thank you all for watching. I love you all. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz. Until next time, friends, let's go Devils.